Hey, what is going on, everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and welcome back to another episode of Mario's Minute. For those who do not know, this here is the second podcast I do. My main podcast, Mod Chat, is a podcast in which I come on and I talk to you all about things that I find new, interesting, or cool, or what have you in the world of video game modding and video game console modding. Now, that one is a bit more structured, a bit more edited, and this is certainly not that. This here is Mario's Minute, in which I come on here once a month and I talk to you about whatever the hell I want to. Sometimes I have a guest on, sometimes I don't, and I am going to be apologizing about this yet again because this is going to be a solo episode, and really it is completely on me. It is on me, it is my channel, my podcast, my scheduling, all that stuff, and usually that's kind of what it comes down to, but I'm going to be honest, a lot of times it's really just with how everything is going, it's really just easier for me and easiest really to just be able to sit down, lock in a certain time, and just record, edit, get this thing out there, and be good to go. Because, when you're working with someone else, you got to work with the schedules and all that, and again, not an excuse, but that's kind of what's going on there, and that's on me. My apologies. I kind of said at the beginning of the year that I was trying to aim for a guest every other episode, but when that was kind of consistently falling through, I said, you know what? We're going to have guests on when we have guests on, and by default, I think I'm going to have to roll this a little more solo. But that's not to say guests are no longer coming on. No. It's just they'll be on when they be on when they're on. Either way, this is a podcast which is available in two different forms. First of all, it is available in a video visual form here on the Mr. Mario 2011 YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey channels, in which the best part about that, I would say, is the comments and really the community if you want to engage with them there. So if there's something that you want to say, if you want to jump in, if you want to discuss the episode, that is where it happens, in the comments section. Otherwise, if you want to consume this like an audio-only podcast, since, well, this is a podcast, you can consume it in an audio-only form on your favorite podcasting app, host, provider, or platform. Simply look up Mario's Minute on your favorite, any of those that I said, and you should hopefully be able to find it. I know it's not available on all of them, but it is available on most of them. Like I said though, this is Mario's Minute, in which I come on here, talk about whatever the hell I want to with you all. I come on here once a month, and this is certainly no exception, except I think we're going to get a little meta this time around here. I'm not talking about the company that I don't really like that much. No. I'm going to be talking about the actual podcast, why we're here, why we're listening. And if you are listening to this, thank you so much for coming out. Seriously, this is funny enough. This is one of my favorite things to do on the channel. And I want to take some time out to talk about this and go meta because this is episode 100. This here is episode 100, you all. I never thought it would get this far. Never ever thought that. So because this is a monthly episode and we're at 100 episodes, I certainly do not expect anybody here to have listened to all of the episodes. I think the only person who would have done that would probably be me, because I'm the one recording them, so I'm hearing my voice and all that stuff. So that's why there's been a lot of things I've said in older episodes, a lot of stories I've told, and I'm certainly not out of stories, not by a long shot. That's something I've kind of surprised myself with. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I've somehow not run out of video ideas or stories or any of that stuff. But what I'm saying is, there's also that back catalog that I might have to start retelling a few stories, not because of running out, but because realistically, there's people who, there's good stories, there's good background, there's things there that people simply have not heard about, and they probably won't go back to listen to episode 9 or episode 24 or episode 47, whatever it is. And I certainly don't blame them. That's totally fine. Yeah, but I want to get into the origins of this podcast and really why I started this here. First of all, I want to say this was never, ever planned to be a thing that was supposed to be successful at all. I certainly knew that. I definitely knew that going forward, but the thing is with my channel, I've always wanted to have a personal focus on it. And the thing I used to say about this podcast is that it's kind of like, I guess on my channel's format, it was kind of similar to a gameplay commentary, in which, if you didn't know about gameplay commentaries, and that is one thing, I don't think I'm going to be making them again. Occasionally I'll do a little bit of something here and there, but for a consistent thing, no. But man, that is one thing. I think it's because people are just nostalgic for like that 2016 era of YouTube, and it's been 10 years, so the nostalgia's hitting harder. That is something I've been so happy has returned. And you all know what I'm talking about. There's people talking about finance. There's people talking about politics. There's people talking about just like bad things that have happened in their life stories, advice, things like that. And it's just talked about over Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto or Battlefield gameplay. And man, that is the stuff I love. When gameplay commentaries were big, I loved that era. And when they started falling off, I was like, man, I like doing these, but they're not really getting any sort of views now. And it's a thing of, I've always liked to have that personal component on my channel. I'd like to tell personal stories. I like to inject my personality because that's very much how I am. With my work as well, too. Like if I'm doing any type of work, if I'm doing something professional, I am going to be, mostly clean cut professional and such. But I also do want to put my own flair and my own, bring my own version of myself to it and inject some kind of personality. And with this channel being my channel and not even starting off with Xbox 360 modding, okay? It's so funny how it's been known for that or PS3 modding or something else. And I understand, I've made a lot of the content for that. However, this was originally just a channel to reserve my username that I decided to want to stick to, and I was just putting whatever I wanted to on here because it was just a personal video dump. That's all this channel was. So I was talking about gameplay commentaries. I was going off on that topic because that is something I started doing in around 2011, 2012. And people seemed to like them, and they didn't get like tons of views, right? Some of them got impressive amounts of views. A lot of them might have gotten, just tiny speckles of views, but they were fun to do. They were therapeutic. It was cool to be able to share kind of a personal side with strangers online and entertain them, make them laugh, sometimes upset them. I wasn't trying to do that on purpose, but even being able to kind of come from a point of like, you know what, maybe I can help out people just by like sharing some of these experiences and kind of doing something like that. I'm not trying to, have a therapy session or something, but man, the therapeutic part is pretty nice, and it certainly scratches that itch that just making a tutorial over something technical is not able to do. So I really liked doing those, and as the format started to die off and fall out and just didn't be looked at as favorably, that's when I kind of started changing up things. And I started sharing less personal stories on there. But the other thing that really came about to push this ended up being scheduling, really. At the time, I was really, I don't know how many subscribers my channel had at the time. I think it probably had around 30, 40,000 subscribers, something like that. And I was really grinding out a lot. I want to say this was, because I want to say this was made in 2018. That's when this podcast started. It was January 2018. And it was a little bit of like a New Year's thing. I was like, what, let me just see how long I can run this for. And it's over 8 years later, and I'm still doing this podcast every month, so that's certainly something I didn't expect there. But no, the reason why I'd started this was, at the time, this is in 2016, 2017, I was really doing a lot of content, really like grinding out the channel and such, but then around 2016, that's when I tried to start sticking to more of a schedule, and I'd say 2017, I certainly started doing that. But 2017, it was a good time for the channel. Like, I felt like I was, doing well with my videos. People were really receptive to them. I got, the times for uploads down. I felt like the channel was in a better spot. And the thing is, the output compared to what was happening in my personal life was just not really meshing. Now, around this time, I had taken on a job, and that's one thing I'll say real quick. I don't do this channel full time. I've never wanted to do this channel full time, and because I kind of, there's a lot of reasons I have for that. But one of the more creative reasons is that if I made this channel my full-time job, full-time career, there'd be a bit of allure that is lost to it, and I don't really want to lose that. So even to this day, I don't do this channel full time. But back then, I had taken on a job where I was traveling a lot, and essentially my scheduling, I had kind of set up where I was uploading 2 videos a week. I would upload every Wednesday and every Saturday, And before that, I actually uploaded even more videos. I was kind of just uploading whenever, but sometimes I'd upload 3, 4, 5 times a week. But I said, you know what? Let me kind of tighten this up a little bit. And essentially what I did was I picked 2 days that I thought would be good days to upload, and then I kind of looked at a good time to upload, and that's even changed a little bit over the years, and I'm not super strict with it. Sometimes you all might see I miss out on an upload day, either on purpose or just, timing doesn't really work out, whatever it is. I've even shifted around the time that I upload as well, too, because, the optimal time for the channel uploads has changed also. But no, when it comes down to that, I was in a better spot where I was uploading less, but I was getting noticed more. And I don't mean that from like a popularity thing, but it's like the views were doing better, there was better engagement, and then even so, I talked with some personal friends who they're more technical, and one of my best friends, he actually said, yeah, dude, I've noticed you've been uploading a lot more. And I was like, oh, whoa, no, I got to tell you, I've been uploading less. I'm uploading half as much as I used to. And I told him about, like uploading at a certain time and certain day. He's like, actually, that makes sense. You know what? Yeah, like that actually makes a lot more sense. Well, I can say I thought you were uploading more because I've been noticing your channel more often. So it was at a good point, and I was really grinding out the channel a lot, and I was having fun with it. But then when I ended up taking on this job where I was traveling, I always have a thing where occasionally, if I have to work on a video while traveling, I've done it before, and it's a fun thing, sure, but I don't like to do that. If I have to do something while traveling, I want to get all of the audio and all the video done, and then I just put it on an external drive, I travel, and then if I'm in my hotel room or if I have some downtime or something, that's when I can do the editing. And I know my process well enough where I don't even have to have an optimal setup. Just give me like even a pair of earbuds and I can figure out what's going on, and we're good. That's really all I need there. However, what I ran into was I was traveling so often that it was kind of inverse. It was at the point where when I was at home, I was either working on videos, I was preparing to travel again, or I was helping out other people. There was someone I was dating at the time, so I still wanted to spend time with them. Had my dog Lily, of course, too, and, trying to spend time with her. But then even then, I felt guilty because I was spending less time with her, because I was spending more and more time preparing for my trips. Like I would come back, I would, do all that. And even then it wasn't healthy because I was walking Lily a little less often and she kind of suffered from that. And she's dependent on me. That's my fault entirely. Also because I'm traveling, I'm not really, spending as much time at home, and then I'm going out. And then when I'm traveling, I'm kind of just eating what I can. And man, if you've ever known anybody who, or if you've had to travel for work, man, if you get like a per diem or something, and it's like not even per diem, no, they give you, it's not even an allowance. It's pretty much you're given a food budget every day and you use it or lose it. You kind of have this urge to like use it because you're not going to have it. So you're kind of getting a little more food than you normally would. And you're not getting like good food either. So then I was gaining weight as well too. And I'm like, man, this is not good. This is not good. Something has to give here. Now, 2 things ended up giving. One of them was I ended up changing my upload schedule because I'm like, man, this traveling, this job, and the girlfriend, the dog, having to take care of myself a little bit in there, and 2 uploads a week, this is not sustainable at all. Like it was sustainable when I was working in one place and I was just driving back and forth between an office and I didn't have to travel. But man, not right now. I can't do this. It's not healthy to do this. And then on top of that, I ended up changing the job as well, too. It was a few months after I started this podcast, I ended up changing positions because it was just a job that I wasn't crazy about. And the travel was also killer. That is the way I learned. I am a homebody. I like to travel, but I like to travel when I want to travel, right? That's what it is. So what ended up happening was I looked at this and I said, you know what? Going into the next year, going from 2017 and 2018, I said, I got to slow down a little bit. So this kind of killed me, but I was like, man, I'm going to slow down to 1 video a week. I'm only going to upload on Saturdays. And even if the views suffer, even if the channel, engagement and all that suffers, even if the growth suffers, so be it. Because what I'm doing right now is not healthy. And I don't want to do this full time. I don't want to do the YouTube thing full time. So like, what am I doing here? And that ended up happening. I said to myself back then, I said, you know what? I'm going to go down to one video a week. Occasionally, I'm going to do a video on Wednesday. And I'll see how it goes. If I feel like doing more videos, I'm going to do more videos. But I cannot do more videos right now. And the channel did take a little bit of a hit. It's not like, oh, it died. Like, no. It just took a little bit of a hit, which I understood. But then I had to math it out. And I said, okay, I'm going from an average of 8 videos a week. Well, not a week, good Lord. I said I'm going from an average of 8 videos a month to an average of 4 videos a month. Now, at the time, I was doing mod chat, and mod chat was typically during the week. So I said, okay, so I'm now having my content. But now I have mod chat. I do that once a month. It's in the middle of the week. So boom, we have technically 5 uploads happening. And then pretty much the thing that ended up getting cut off was I said, I can't really be doing these commentaries now. If something's got to go, it's got to be the commentaries, because it's either going to be the commentaries or it's going to be the tutorials. And people like the tutorials. People like the mod videos. That's why people are coming to the channel. And I like doing them as well too. So I said, if I have to pick one, I'm doing the mods. But I said, you know what? I want to have that itch. I want to have that outlet. I want to have that personal connection with the audience here. And I knew this podcast was not going to be successful, but I was like, even if just a few people watch it, listen to it, if they're enjoying it, if I'm connecting with those people, and that's, people like you who are listening, but if I'm connecting with those people, then that's fine enough for me. That's okay. So I'm going to do something else. And I had the thought about this in the shower, actually. This whole podcast started from that was like the planning of it, but the actual podcast was just a shower thought. I was in the shower one day. I was like, I should do a podcast where I just talk about whatever the hell I want to. And I had no idea what it was going to be called. And I didn't do this either. And this is actually something thank you, Lily. All right. She's shaking outside and all that stuff. But this is actually something I've never shared this, at least on the channel here. It's funny because I've always wanted to do something like this. Even when I was a kid, I've always wanted to do something like this. I've always kind of even experimented with doing something like this. But the thing is, when I was young at the time, this format quite literally didn't exist. Like, I was kind of wanting to do some stuff like this even maybe before or like around the iPod era, and podcasts came from iPods, iPod, podcasts go on the iPod, you know how that goes. And if you didn't know, now you know. But the thing is, I thought, being on the radio would be cool, but I'm like, well, I'm not, tied enough for the radio. I say, I still have my vocal imperfections, just like right there, I just said, I can't be doing that on the radio. So I was like, I don't really want to do that. And even career-wise, I didn't want to be on the radio. I was like, if I could occasionally do something cool, but no, it's not that. I don't want to be a TV star. I don't want to be a movie star, none of that stuff. But like, kind of being able to do that in my own way would be cool, which kind of describes YouTube, does it not? And it kind of describes bits of the channel here. Like even the early, not even beta, like the alpha prototypes of videos that I do now. I was doing stuff like this, like on VHS-C tapes when I was a kid for nobody. And I don't know why I was doing it, but what I'm saying is, even when I was young, I wanted to do something like I do on this channel, but quite simply, the format and the media did not exist for it. So I'm thankful that, it's in the current age now where I'm able to do that. But I say all that because I kind of had to think, okay, if I want to do this podcast, it could be something, I could do it like once a month. So if it's 1 upload a month, so now I'm up to 6 uploads a month. So 6 compared to 8, that's only a 25% decrease. I can work with that. 4 of the videos are going to be, videos that require more effort, tutorials, things like that. Mod chat at the time, it was a stream. So I say, you know what? I just got to stream that. That's fine. And then Mario's Minute. Can I even talk? aimlessly for like an hour? Can I even do that? I got to get a little bit of something here. So I kind of tried to figure out what my format was going to be. And I kind of just wrote it out like a small outline. I was like, I want to do an intro. I should come to the table with like maybe 2 or 3 topics. I'd like to talk about, the games I'm currently playing. And then I want to know that people are actually make it to the end of this episode. So let's try this keyword type thing. And that's kind of where all this started. Now, funny thing, if you did not know, you can actually listen to the very first iteration of this episode. And I haven't listened to it in years, but I don't think it's really changed since the beginning. And I'm not talking about episode 1, I'm talking about episode 0. Now, I remember I kind of blasted on Twitter. This was in 2018, I decided to do that. And it was also kind of, new year, new month and all. I said, let me just try this out, right? And I think in the back of my head, I said, let me try this for 12 months. That'll give me 12 episodes and let me see how I feel about it. And when I started doing that, I said, I'm just going to, do a very rough outline. I'm going to sit down at my computer with Audacity open with a microphone and just see if I could just talk for an hour. And I was able to do that. So I remember I kind of, got some feels on Twitter about it. And I said, hey, I need feedback on something. If people can listen to what I recorded and kind of give some feedback, that'd be awesome. And there were a few people who ended up responding, and I want to, give them some shout outs here. Escort Do, that Escort Do from the PS3 Exploit team, Jason, love that dude. He's still one of my great friends, but he loves podcasts. He actually found me through podcasts, funny enough. It wasn't through PSX Place, it wasn't through YouTube, wasn't any of this stuff. He found me through podcasts, through Mod Chat. That's how we first became connected with each other. But he responded, he's like, yeah, I'd like to listen. And I'm sorry, Jason, I got to put you a little bit on blast. He listened and he never gave any feedback. I'm pretty sure he listened. I just didn't get feedback. And then James Rayner, who was on this episode, who was on this podcast here, and another friend, he wanted to give it a listen, and he said, it was good. And even at one point, because like Lily started she was in the background, she started playing with her duck and squeaking it, and I kind of made a comment about it, and he's like, no, dude, you shouldn't cut that out. Like stuff like that, it was really cute. Like you should keep that in. I said, okay, cool, I'm going to keep that in. And then I believe the third person who listened to it was Paranoid Coder, aka Devin. Shout out to him, still a great friend as well too, one of my best friends right there. He listened to it, and I believe he said it was good, but he actually even gave the name for the podcast, because I was struggling on a name. That was the problem. And he said Mario's Minutes, or maybe even Mario's Minute. And I'm like, Mario's Minute, I like that. And I knew there was a little bit of a joke there, because I think originally, it was kind of, I think it kind of started as Mario's Minutes, and I don't remember the exact origin of it. I feel like I even got that from Devin, but he kind of came back and said, Mario's Minute would be good. And I knew it was kind of lining up for a joke, because I'll have people who be all like, yeah, it's called Mario's Minute, but you talk for 65 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, but I like the origin of it, and I like how it sounds. So so it was pretty much locked in right there. And that right there is Mario's Minute episode 0. That was the prototype for the show, which you can still find out there. I've said too much. It's easier to find than you would expect. But yeah, if you ever get bored and you want to listen to the prototype version of the show, it is out there. Episode 0 is out there. Yeah, and then I ended up starting with episode 1, and I think that was a solo one, I want to say. And I was getting, at first it was funny, a bunch of people hated it. And that's one thing I want to instill with you all as well, too. Don't get scared off by something just at the beginning, because at that time, that was also the month, I ended up having my biggest video I ever uploaded. It was a video in which I took apart a Xbox 360 from GameStop, and I wanted to see if they were still butchering them. And this was near peak. It's happened a few times, but it was one of the times where it was peak GameStop hatred was online. And that video did gangbusters. To this date, it is still my most viewed video. And to be honest, it's something, it's funny to me, but I'm not really proud of that video. I remember making that video and I was like, this will get maybe 2,000, 3,000 views tops. I didn't think it was going to get like over 1,000,000 views. And there were a lot of people, like, the thing is too, when I like the niche, I like kind of the audience here and kind of keeping it, because man, I'll tell you, when it went viral, people suck. Like, just like the general people just suck, just leaving bad comments, things like that. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want this again. I really, I don't need this in my life. I'm good. Like, I don't need all this attention here. I'm good. The little bit I get here is fine. And even to this day, people are like, you should share your videos. You should do this. You should do these other things that will help. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm fine. If people can find the videos and they can help people out, that's cool. I'm not trying to be Mr. Viral Superstar. No, thank you. That's not for me. And I still feel that way. But I did have a taste of it, and I did not like how it tasted. I'm going to be honest. I did not. But I had gotten a ton of views and a ton of subscribers from that. And then at the end of the month, I uploaded the first episode of Mario's Minute. And I still remember there were folks who were like, one person said, "This is how you kill a channel." You all can look at how the channel looks now, and while as I don't have the most impressive channel, it's like, well, I think I quite literally have the last laugh on that. There were other people where there was one person, they said like, yeah, no, this sucks and this isn't great, and come on everyone, let's unsubscribe from this channel. And I looked at that and I'm like, who are you talking to? Like, who are you? Like you know what I mean? Like, when there's some people where they're like trying to like show out and like act a fool like that and be like, come on, everyone, let's do this. Or like they're trying to like rally the troops. But like, it's kind of just like, who are you talking to? Who are you flexing for? What are you doing? So that's all to say, the very first episode got bad reception in general, but I was also like, you know what? I know this is kind of my new audience, and maybe in a bit of a way, I was like, if I can shed the crappy people in my audience, then so be it. If this is what's going to get them off the channel, cool. That's fine. Then the next episode was a guest episode, and the first episode, well, the first guest I had on had to be Dope Sonar 930, aka not Modbot, aka Daniel, and I had him on because he was my long-running partner on Mod Chat. And I told him, I was like, dude, you're going to be the first guest on there. And he really appreciated that. So it was cool. It was cool being able to have him on there. And by then, I think that by the time the second episode came out, there was still some hate towards it. Some, like a little bit. But even then, it was pretty much like the people who wanted to hang out on the channel were the ones who were watching, and they were excited because they're like, yo, it's Mario and Modbot talking together. This is awesome. So there was that, and I would say by episode 3, I was running. Like, we were off to the races. So that's really the origins of this podcast and why it started. And if you're asking why I didn't stop doing it, why I'm continuing to do this here, because I didn't really feel like stopping. Sorry, I'm kind of trying to collect my thoughts here. That's why I went a little quiet. I didn't start this with an end date in mind. I certainly didn't think I would be doing this over 8 years later. I'll tell you this, over 8 years later, my life has changed quite a bit. Circumstances have changed quite a bit. Good stuff. Some unbelievable stuff has happened, good and bad, between then. But, this podcast has also kept me grounded, and that's what I really like. Not just in like life in general, but I'm talking about like with the channel, because there's people here who watch, who listen, who subscribe. They're real people. Especially in a world of AI and bot activity, and where that dead internet theory is really no longer a theory anymore. I think that's valued. There's people who, man, I didn't expect people to become a fan of this episode, like of this podcast, and that means so much, because this podcast is really just me talking in a mic and just talking about personal things. That's it. I know it's not for everyone, but I've told people, you know what? If you don't want this, like I label it pretty clearly. Like, if you're coming here and you're like, man, what the hell is this stuff? This isn't. I want mods. I'm like, why did you click it then? Like, that's your fault, dude. There's nothing about this episode, especially this episode, that has anything to do with mods. The last episode, sure, where I talked about the easiest systems to mod. You know what? People really messed with that episode. People loved it, and I enjoyed doing it. And that's the other thing. I still enjoy doing this. It was even a little bit of a way for me selfishly, and I think it was good too. I think people have enjoyed it. It was a way for me to also reach out to other people. There was other creators, there was other developers, there was people, online friends I had where I wanted to talk to them. And it was really cool, or it was just like, especially, many YouTubers and stuff, I'd reach out to them and they were big fans of me. And I'm like, dude, I'm a big fan of you. I'd love to talk to you. Do you want to call my podcast? They'd be like, yes. And sometimes they'd be like, no, because I don't really do that. I'm sorry. I'm a fan, but I feel uncomfortable doing that. Not you, but I just kind of feel uncomfortable doing the podcast thing. I'm like, that's fine, man. We're still cool. I don't take it offensively. So in a way, it was a little bit of a social thing with me to just be like, these are like cool people I see online. If I can connect with them for a few hours and talk with them directly, and if we can, even better, if we can have a good experience and a good conversation and other people enjoy it, that's awesome. And that's another thing I've really thought of with the channel recently too. I've continued to just kind of do the channel stuff in general because I make the videos that I want to make. And that might sound like a little bit of a silly statement, but it's that you all see, I very rarely chase trends. There's a lot of times everyone is going right, and I'm the weirdo going left. Because I'm like, I don't really want to go right now. I kind of want to go left. This other thing on the left is interesting me. And I kind of like to go to the beat of my own drum. When there's people who are saying, hey, can you work on this? Can you work on this? Can you work on this? If it's something I'm currently working on, I'll be like, yeah, sure, it's going to be up in like a week. The video's done. Other times, I'm just like, no, I kind of want to do that on my own time, even if I know it would be good for channel growth, and even if I know if I change this or did this other thing, it would be good. I don't want to do that because that's not what makes me happy. I want to enjoy what I do. And for the most part, I still really enjoy the channel here. And I'd say the last thing that's kind of kept this podcast going too, and it kind of goes back to really you all. And I'm not trying to, blow smoke up people's butts or anything. But I do want to thank you all for listening. And it's really come down to the personal component there, where, like I said, I've said so many times, I didn't think people were going to be a fan of this. I was shocked. I'll tell you, I was shocked when there was one person who, real awesome dude, really skillful person, right? I was not only surprised they were a fan of the channel. They jump scared me one time. They messaged me. They're like, hey, I was in the car listening to an episode of Mario's Minute with my kids, and you were talking about Pokemon toilet paper, and I wanted to know, can you tell me where to buy that from? Because now my kids really want it. And I'm like, what? Okay, hold on. You're listening to a podcast that is several years old, and I didn't think you were listening to it. I didn't think you were listening to an old episode, and you're listening to this with your kids in the car, and your kids are like, what? I was as shocked as I was honored in that moment. And he was like, no, like he said it's like it's one of his favorite podcasts, and he enjoys listening to it. And he's a little private, I'll say, so that's why I'm not putting his name out there. But I remember even back then I had to be like, okay, wait, hold on. I have to remember this. And I now have to go back in my mind a few years. And that was with this person. I was here and here and here and here and here. And then I end up finding the toilet paper. I was like, I'm pretty sure this is it. Here you go. If you can find it, awesome. And it ended up being it was prohibitively expensive for him to purchase. And I'm like, I'm not surprised, man. The only reason why we bought it is because we were right there. We were at the store and it was the same price as the normal toilet paper. So I bought the Pokemon toilet paper. But just little moments like that. But no, even to a deeper point, I know that there's sometimes it's completely unexpected. But there's sometimes you don't know a lot of times you don't know what a person's going through. And there's most people, and I'll say this, most people who listen to this are silent listeners. Because for example, like if 10 people comment on this episode, cool. But then if there's like 2,000 people listening, I don't know who the other, 1,990 people are. Those are the silent listeners. There's a silent majority with this, but there's people, they enjoy it for different wants, needs, whatever it is. And there's sometimes people really just, they need that release. They need that escape. And I've tried to handle a lot of that in a purposeful way. That's why I really don't talk about politics here on the channel. That's why I really don't talk about worldly events. Outside of, I think the one I was consistently talking about was COVID for a while, because I'm like, look, like, we're all in this together, man. Whole world is shutting down. We're all in this thing together. But outside of that, I don't talk about those other things, not because I'm not interested, but because I know that people need an escape. With how much chaos happens at any given time in the world, personal, political, public chaos, whatever it is, if people just want to go to a YouTube channel and want a little bit of escape, just like how to mod a system, how to solder a certain thing, a silly podcast like this, that's great. And there's people who they're going through things in life. And something like this, it's not like this is all they're looking forward to, but what I'm saying is they're looking forward to the next episode of a podcast, the next upload from a YouTuber. That is something that does give them pause to continue to, I'm not trying to go too dark here, but to continue to have something to look forward to. And I can understand that because there's been many times I've been in that as well too. Whether it's stress, whether it's something that is depressing, whether it's life circumstances, whether it's something else, whether there's an emergency that happens. And you know what? The calm in the middle of that storm, of that emergency, was that one of your favorite YouTubers uploaded a video about an exact topic that you wanted to watch. And in that moment of chaos, you were able to have 10 to 15 minutes just to watch that, just to enjoy yourself, and just to have a little bit of a break. And I say that, I'm not even referencing this channel here when I say that. I say that as somebody who has been on that receiving end, because I will say this, I'm a much bigger viewer of YouTube than I am a creator on here. My channel surfing is YouTube channel surfing. I haven't had cable since 2012 because YouTube has replaced my cable, That's been a lot there. But I want to say, those are the origins. That's what's going on. That's why I'm continuing to do this here. And for anybody who might be asking, when am I going to stop? I don't know. I don't know when I'm going to stop. A lot of times this is the last thing I'm going to say about this, right? I have made time to record every single episode of this podcast. When things are great, when I have a bunch of free time, when things are horrible, when I barely have the wherewithal to really talk for an hour, when that's the last thing I want to do, I do continue to do this because I say, you know what? This is something that there's a group of people who look forward to it. For me, it's easy enough to do. And if I'm able to do it, I'm going to plan around it. I'm going to talk for an hour. That's the minimum I have to do. And I can just get it out there. And if I can get people to enjoy it, to laugh, to think, whatever it is, I'm going to continue to do that. And that's kind of been my little in, I guess, to continue to keep going with everything. It's, it's a good visual for this. That meme that people post up where it's typically about open source software and it's like all these complex, like it's this complex, like not even web. It is all of these blocks that are different shapes and sizes built up together, hanging on to different things. And this whole tower looks like it could topple over any minute. And it's like saying all these complex things, right? Like all these complex technologies. And then there's this little tiny, thin rectangular thing that's kind of just holding everything together like a kickstand. And there's an arrow that points to it and it says something like one 42-year-old programmer in Milwaukee who is maintaining an open source library in Python and has been working at it for 15 years. I feel like Mario's Minute is a little bit of that. I feel like for everything to continue to keep going and going and going, I still got to have my outlet for Mario's Minute. Because even when I've taken hiatuses, when I've taken breaks, when I've scheduled those, I still still make sure to have a monthly episode of Mario's Minute come out every single month for the past 8+ years. So thank you for hanging out, everyone. I got a lot more sentimental with that than I expected, but those are the origin stories of it. Now let's do something a little brighter, right? We're gonna talk about. I'm gonna tell you all about a baby squirrel. So what's cuter than that, right? Maybe the only people who don't find them cute are people who just don't find animals cute, which I'm like, what are you doing, dog? Or people who do not like squirrels. But recently, I was walking both my dogs. I've got a dog, girlfriend got a dog, so then that's kind of my dog as well too, just like her dog is, well, my dog is also her dog, you know how that goes. And I was walking them, and keep in mind, her dog has killed a squirrel before. There was one time she was being babysat by someone, and she ended up chasing after a squirrel. The dog here I'm talking about. But this dog ended up chasing after a squirrel, ended up, sorry, it's going to get a little graphic, ended up grabbing the squirrel by the neck, bit it, and killed the squirrel. And as the squirrel let out its like a final like death scream, and its soul ended up evaporating from it, then her dog ended up shaking the dead carcass violently. And at that point, the sitter's like, no. And they had to get the squirrel off her, and then they had to like bury the squirrel and all that too. Yeah, they buried a squirrel. They showed respect to the squirrel. So ever since then, though, her dog has had bloodlust. Whenever there is a squirrel close by, or whenever there's some squirrels chattering or running around, her dog starts pulling, going nuts. It's been like that for years. Got a taste of squirrel and can't get it out of her, right? So I was walking them the other day, and I was shocked by what I saw. There was a baby squirrel that was on the ground, alive and well, everything, right? Just like, but this little baby squirrel could just like fit in the palm of my hand, and this baby squirrel, its tail was longer than its body itself. It was adorable. But what happened was I ended up taking a few photos, and then this squirrel was getting a little close. A little closer to me, a little closer. And I'm trying to kind of control the dogs because Lily didn't notice, but my girlfriend's dog absolutely noticed. And I was trying to kind of pull her away, like kind of keep some space, but I still wanted to like get photos and all that, you know, because I'm just like, man, I don't know when I'm going to see a baby squirrel this close, and it's coming closer to me. Now, here's the thing. Her dog is a flexor. Her dog will flex, because she's got a tiny dog, but her dog will flex. Her dog will try and, you know, just flex overall, just be tougher than the dog actually is. You know what I'm saying? And the thing that made me laugh, the reason why I'm sharing this is because her dog is flexing, trying to get close to the squirrel, all that. And the squirrel called her bluff. The squirrel ends up getting closer. And it gets closer. And like her dog and this baby squirrel are like staring each other down, getting closer. And like they're in the same pose and everything. And I ended up taking a few photos, and I was like, okay, I gotta just keep walking, because this squirrel is like one of the most fearless animals I've ever seen, and it's gonna keep getting closer to us. And at any given minute, Lily might notice, turn around, and is just gonna chase after this little thing. Because I don't trust Lily either. I've had her for so long, man. I've had her since 2017, actually. I've had her for so long, and I don't trust her. There's a lot of things I can trust her with, but her in general, I can't trust her because she still finds ways to surprise me. So there, hopefully y'all got a little bit of a funny baby squirrel story update type thing. I also want to throw this in as well too. I still scroll Twitter quite a bit, and one of the funny things I've seen, and if you don't know about it, it's people calling other people tourists. I'm not talking about people who go to other countries and all that stuff. The first time I ever saw it was there was somebody who, they were commenting on a picture of somebody who's like trying to show like how much they play games and all that, and they were holding a 3DS in their hand. And somebody ended up replying, they said something along the lines of, yeah, they're not like really playing anything. They're not a real gamer. This is all just performative because they don't even have a cartridge inside the 3DS. And then somebody replied and they said, hey, everyone, haha, look at the tourist who thinks that you have to have cartridges to play 3DS games. And that is the first time I ever saw that there. But there's been a lot of people who've been talking about tourists and being performative with gaming. And y'all know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I can explain it and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's people when, they set up a game, like they take a picture of like their laptop somewhere with a game on it, or they're out somewhere, like they're out at a coffee shop, or they're out, I don't know, at a table like on campus or something, and they have a picture of their Vita or their 3DS or their Switch on a game. And people call this out, they call it performative, because when you see it, I'm going to warn you all, when you see it, you can't unsee it. Most of the time, when you see these pictures, they're just on the title screen of the game. And if they're not on the title screen, they're within the first like 10 minutes of the game. So there's kind of people who've just been poking at the, genuineness of that. But I guess, kind of getting in my internet brain a little bit. The other day, one of my friends was coming over. He was dropping something off. And I was playing on my Switch too. I was playing Cloudpunk. And I said, you know what? If I want it to be performative, like, how would this work on the Switch too? Let me give this a try. So I just walked outside. I was in front of my place. I had my Switch 2, and I said, you know what? I'm going to get some fresh air. My friend's going to come over in like 10 minutes. I'm going to play some Cloudpunk because I think I'd rather, be out with the sun, get some vitamin D, and sniff the fresh air, as opposed to just kind of like being on my couch and like, checking the clock every minute and waiting for him to show up. It's funny because I tried this, and granted, mind you, Cloudpunk is a dark game, a visually dark game, quite literally a dark game. I was like, maybe I'm just playing the wrong game. I'm not sure how people can really do this with the Switch 2, for example, because I turned the brightness up all the way, and I get that it's a LCD screen on there as well, too. And again, dark game. If I was playing like a Mario game, probably would have been better, unless it was like Luigi's Mansion, even though that is a Luigi game, but I'm technically putting it in the same universe. But man, I could barely see anything. I could, like, it was unplayable. Like, especially because it was nice and sunny outside. And so I'm at the point where I was like trying to like put my Switch 2 like underneath a bush under like some shadows to see if I could get it there. But it was funny because it was the complete opposite reaction of how we were as kids with the original Game Boy Advance, the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy, without a front light or a backlight or any of that stuff. It was the opposite where, with those ones, you needed a source of light directly on there. This time around, I'm like, dude, I cannot see anything. And I was like wrecking the vehicle. I couldn't see where I was going. I couldn't play. I literally couldn't play it. It was unplayable. And then it's funny because then when I end up going inside after I met up with him and all that stuff, I went inside, I fire up Cloudpunk again. I'm like, oh, I can see everything. And yeah, this is really easy to do, but like I literally could not see anything. So I guess I wanted to see how much gaming you could do in performative, and probably you can do it better under better circumstances, but under those circumstances, it was a complete failure, man. It was a complete failure. I couldn't see a dang thing. So we're getting to the end of this podcast here. So since we're nearing the end, there's a couple things I like to talk about here. One of them is I like to share a game store story, which, by the way, I will share this as well. I don't remember when I started to do this. I don't remember this, but at one point I was kind of wanting to have a little bit of like a regular segment here on Mario's Minute. One of them was I wanted to talk about games that I'm playing or games that my guest and I are playing. And then at one point I said, you know what, just so I have kind of like a consistent pool of stories to draw from, I kind of want to talk about my times at a game store. And I remember I ran it by some people, and shout out to actually friend on the channel, and also one of my Discord moderators as well too, Taz. I remember I ran it by some people, and I said, yeah, I'm thinking of like sharing on my solo episodes, like maybe like one or two game store stories from when I worked at a game shop. He was like, dude, that'd be awesome. Yes, like I would love to hear that. I was like, okay, cool. Let's give it a try. That's another thing too. I've kind of just kept going with it, but I do have one story here I'd like to share, and I think it should mostly be safe for. It might be a little PG-13. All right, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the person who listens to this in the car with his kids. I think this will be a little PG-13, but this was about one of my coworkers. We're going to call her Rachel, let's say. And I'm going to change the names here. We're going to call her Rachel. And Rachel was a favor hire to my boss. And if you have listened to the past few episodes, you've probably heard this before. I did not like the favor hires. And what I mean by favor hires is I was working at a game shop when I was in high school for about 2.5 years. It was a local mom and pop shop. We had 2 locations. I know I did really well there. The shop's been closed for so long at this point. It was just a lot of mismanagement and all that stuff. But I was there, and the thing I didn't, with the boss, the thing I didn't like about these, personal favor hires and all that is my boss did not run the shop full time. He owned the shop. Occasionally he would do stuff there, but for the most part, he was gone because he had his own separate career outside of the game shop. And even while he was running the 2 shops, he still had that career. And when they both closed, he's still running that career. I didn't think that was great. I'm one of those people, I personally believe if you're going to be running a business like that, you cannot have a full-time job somewhere else and then still do your business and like try and be that level of successful. I mean, it's possible you can do it, but like if you're running one business, it's like, dude, that needs to be your job. Your business needs to be your job. If you're running one business and you really want it to be successful, you know what I mean? Especially if it's a retail storefront. That's my opinion on there. If it's kind of like a side thing, like if it's something niche or if it's like an internet business or something, I get that. But if it's like a retail storefront, like, no, you can't have this other thing. Yeah, I've also, real quick, I've also seen the opposite happen. I've seen where there was a game shop where dude ended up quitting his job, opened up a game shop, was successful, mismanaged it several times, became less successful. And I knew the writing was on the wall when he ended up accepting a job at another retail store full time. And I remember looking at that. He announced it. He's like, yeah, I'm happy to announce this. I was like, why do you have, this is not good. Like you have a job, you have a full-time job, you have a business, you have employees under you. You know about the product here. You should not, like, no, is business that bad that you had to pick up a full-time job outside? And it certainly was, because within the next 12 months, I want to say, his business went under. So he needed to pay the bills. I can get that. But that's neither here nor there. Either way, what happened was we're talking about Rachel. Now, from my boss's career that he had outside of the job, he had several coworkers there. And many times it would go like this. His coworkers would be like, hey, you have that game shop, right? I have a daughter, or I have a son, or I have a niece or a nephew who likes video games, or maybe not even likes video games. I have someone in my family who needs a job. Can you help them out? And he would almost always hire them on. And it frustrated me because I'm like, man, we got these good people who are applying, who are begging for jobs, good people, knowledgeable people who can talk to the public, who can work a register, who can actually like talk to people who are nice, who are decent, who actually have the skill sets needed to do this stuff. And they know the material and they know it well. We have so many people who are applying, who are begging for applications, and then you're hiring this person because they're your coworker's son or they're your coworker's daughter. And and it was odd because it's like, typically the people who were better were the ones who didn't play video games. And typically the favor hires who did play video games were the ones who were the worst. So what ended up happening was Rachel was one of those who was brought on, and she was there a lot longer than I expected. She was there for several years. She was young. I want to say she was like 18 or 19 when she was hired on. She was working there. She didn't play video games. Her boyfriend played video games. She did not play video games. She didn't really care for them. But you know what? She was personable enough where she was fine in a retail setting. And the boss gave her a lot of leeway as well too. She had a little bit of an attitude at times, but they kind of got that in check. And she did turn up the attitude when needed. Like, for example, if there was like loiterers in the store, she would turn up the attitude a little bit, get them out of there. So I really appreciated her for that. But outside that, there wasn't really many more benefits from there. Now, I will say this, the other, like, there were many, how do I put this? There were many people who were hired on who did appreciate this aspect. She was a good-looking girl, so, easy on the eyes, but she had a habit of wearing incredibly short shorts. And I don't really know the details of it because most of the time we didn't work at the same location. But from what I understood, it was becoming a little bit of a distraction, not just for the employees, but also for the customers. And so the boss had to talk to her and be like, hey, you can't wear shorts that are that short on the job. And then she stopped doing it. She still wore short shorts, but not short shorts. You know what I mean? So that was one thing. The other thing was at one point she ended up having a kid. So she took some time off. And then when she came back, this is where she got a lot of like, she ended up getting a lot of leeway. I'll put that. And meanwhile, I can't really talk too much because the boss also gave me a lot of leeway. He gave others leeway, but it was odd because he could be a good guy when he wanted to. I think in his heart he was a good guy, but he would give leeway on things and then he would just go off on you for other things that didn't really make sense, you know? So a little bit of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde there. But what happened was when she had her daughter, she also started bringing her daughter to the shop. And, you know, then her daughter was becoming a toddler and was walking around and all that. And so, you know, she's got a baby there at first and she's got a toddler. And I personally didn't really like the look of it. It's kind of like, you know, you walk into a game shop and the employee is just kind of distracted because there's like, you know, their kid is behind the counter, but their kid, you can't even talk to them because their kid's not speaking yet. So their kid is just kind of, you know, causing some issues. The employee is distracted. Maybe you're trying to have a conversation and, you know, kid is crying or yelling or whatever it is. So it's just not the best look for a retail storefront. That's what I'm trying to say. But she was still able to bring her kid a lot, and it was okay until it wasn't. I don't really know what the turning point was, but at one point, the boss also talked to her and was just like, hey, you can't keep bringing your kid to work. Like, I've been patient, I've given you the leeway, I get it, but this isn't a daycare, this is a retail shop, and we're trying to sell games and movies and music. So you got to have someone look after your kid. Or if you can't, like, you can't come in here, but you cannot work and have your kid here at the same time. Like, we've given you enough. And she was cool with that enough to the point where, I mean, she stopped bringing her kid all the time. But the issue that came about was when she ended up turning 21. When she ended up turning 21, it's not like she never drank before, right? But when she was 21, she was able to legally drink. For the first time, of course. And the thing is, I noticed a stark contrast with her responsibility and reliability before she turned 21 and after she turned 21. And I don't think that 21st birthday was any coincidence. But it ended up reaching a bit more of a boiling point when one of my other coworkers, I've talked about this guy before, and I don't remember what name I assigned to him, but we're going to call him, let's say Ryan, right? Now, Ryan, I don't really know why exactly he was hired, and I don't really know why he stayed on for so long, and I don't really, there's a lot of stuff I don't really know, but he was a friend of the business. My manager had known him for a long time. My boss had known him for a long time. The dude just wasn't really the most responsible with life stuff in general, wasn't really much of a joy to be around. He could be a good person at times to deal with, but a lot of times he kind of just was nihilistic and kind of just let his nihilism kind of like poison the well. And the dude also stank as well too. He was kind of like Ed in terms of stink level from Ed, Ed and Eddie. I don't know what was going on with that, but either his body stank or his clothes stank or both of them. And he didn't really take the best care of himself either. He smoked, he didn't eat well, all that. So that certainly did not help. But the dude stank is what I'm saying. Either way, he wanted to get St. Patrick's Day off. And he asked for it well in advance, and he got it. And I had to explain all this because now this is the story I'm trying to tell. He ends up taking the day off. Because, of course, he wanted to get up, he wanted to drink, he wanted to do his thing, and he did. He got very drunk that day, and I'm sure he was quite happy with that, but he planned for this, right? But this is the reliability with Rachel. Now, she wouldn't, especially after, she was better at first with, you know, throwing out dates and all that, but really, after she turned 21, she would kind of just be like, hey, I can't come into work. Or, hey, I can't come to work tomorrow. Or, yeah, I don't have anyone to look after my daughter. I can't. And it was just a lot more short term with that. So I want to say it was like a few days before St. Patrick's Day. All of a sudden, she's like, hey, I need St. Patrick's Day off work. But she didn't say St. Patrick's Day. It was the specific day. I want to say it was a Saturday that was when it was celebrated. She said, hey, I need Saturday off work. And the boss is kind of like, no, we kind of assembled the schedule already. No, no, we expect you at work. Unless you can swap with someone, then no. So I think there was only one person with the way it was stacked. There might have been one or two people off work. One of them, he was already getting off work. I'm pretty sure it was like my manager. By this time, he was able to get weekends off of work, so we weren't going to bug him. The other guy was Ryan. Ryan had specifically taken this day off to drink. So she hits up Ryan and she's like, hey, Ryan, I need, can you swap with me to get this day off work? And he knew what was up. We all knew. But he said no. And she said, no, please, can you swap with me to get this day off work? Because, I know it's short notice. I'm really sorry. I can, swap with you and I can help out with all that other stuff. But it's just, I'm going to be busy that day. And then, I also have my daughter and I don't have anybody to look after my daughter. I know how it is where I can't bring my daughter to work anymore. So then if I don't have anybody to look after her, then I can't really come into work and all this other stuff. Now, Ryan also had kids, which also surprised me as well. But he had kids and he was pretty much like, no, Rachel, no. I know what's going on. Number one, you want to get off that day because you want to drink. It's St. Patrick's Day. You've been like this since you turned 21. You keep drinking. You want to drink. I know why you're doing this, okay? You want to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, so you want the day off work. Number two, I don't care about your kid. It's not that I don't care about her, but I don't use your kid as an excuse. It's not going to work with me. I don't care. I don't care if people can't look after your kid. I don't care if you can't come to work because you can't find a sitter for your kid. That's your responsibility. That's your kid. Plus, I'm not going to let you use your kid as an excuse for you to get off work and take my day away from getting off work so you can drink. Because you know what? I'm taking the day off work so I can stay at home, so I can drink, so I can do all this stuff. But I actually asked for this in advance and I planned for it. You did not plan for this. You did not plan. That is your fault. So he pretty much just laid into her about that. And I don't really remember that day. It's not that I was drinking because I couldn't drink and I really wasn't a drinker. And I don't even like alcohol. I'm going to be honest with you. I only like alcohol if it's isopropyl alcohol and I'm using it to clean up stuff. But outside of that, I don't even like alcohol. I'm going to be real with you all there. But no, I think it was just a standard Saturday. She came to work. She had to work. I don't think we had anything really bad that happened then. But yeah, that was the story of Rachel there, attempting to get the day off work so she could have a drinking holiday. Maybe she had it the next day, I don't know. And from what I know, Ryan had a fantastic St. Patrick's Day. And you know what? Even with the stuff that we disagree on with Ryan, I'm glad he had a good day that day, even if it was at the expense of his, brain cells. But that was his own decision. He was an adult. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here is the games that I'm currently playing. And right now, if you saw the latest mod chat from this month, then you might have seen this on here, but I ended up restarting Grand Theft Auto 3. I've just realized, you know what? Grand Theft Auto 3 is just my comfort game. I love that game. That is the game that got me into gaming. It's not that I never played video games before. It's not that I wasn't interested in them, but Grand Theft Auto 3 was the first game I ever played where I felt like you could do whatever you wanted to. And I loved cars, and I was like, wait, I can actually press a button and get out of this car, and then I'm like a 3D person. I didn't even know what 3D was. I'm a 3D person, and then I can walk around anywhere in the city, and I can find any other car and press this button and then get into that car. That was the coolest thing in the world to me as a kid, and I still love it. I still absolutely love that. I definitely shouldn't have been playing Grand Theft Auto 3 then, and maybe, you know what? I'll put this out there. If you all want to hear about the story of how I got introduced to Grand Theft Auto 3, let me know, and I can tell it in a future episode, but let me know if you're interested in that. But either way, it is my all-time favorite game. That was the game where I was like, I need this game. I need this game. It's on PS2. I need a PS2 to play Grand Theft Auto 3. I need this. I became obsessed. And man, I loved it, and I still love the game. I have it on almost every platform. I know I don't have it on the Xbox One, Xbox Series. That's pretty much like the only one I can think of I don't have it on. But I have it on every platform. Almost every platform, sorry. And if you put it in front of me, I'll just start playing it. But I kind of realized, I went back to like the kid in me a little bit playing this again. Because the Switch 2, it got that update where now you can play Switch 1 games portably. as if they are running in docked mode. So if there's any higher frame rate enhancements, you get that. If you play on docked, you get it handheld now. Additionally, they also display in a higher resolution. So if a game displays natively at 1080p when docked, it will show up as 1080p on the portable on Switch, which is nice because it's also a 1080p screen. So Grand Theft Auto 3 was, funny enough, one of the first games I tried out on Switch too, and I'm like, man, this ain't too great, because it was the definitive edition. And I know it gets a lot of hate, but you know what? It's not as terrible as it used to be. But when I was playing in handheld mode, it was still not great. People were like, no, it's better. It's fixed up on Switch. I'm like, no, it's not. I can see the frame pacing issues right here. It's bad. It's still bad. And I played it multiple times on the Switch. So I decided to play it with this setting enabled on Switch too. And you know what? It's actually much nicer to play now. And I enjoyed it. And every time I go back to replay Grand Theft Auto 3, I try to do something a little bit differently. The last time I finished up Grand Theft Auto 3, I said I'm going to do all of the missions. I'm talking like the RC car missions, the story missions, and all the payphone missions. I'd never done that before, and I did all of them. This time around, there was even another time I said I'm not going to touch the radio dial. So whenever I get into a car, whatever radio station is playing, that's what I'm going to listen to. That's what I'm going to deal with. So I did that for a playthrough. This time around, I said, you know what? I'm going to go and get all the hidden packages. I've never gotten all the hidden packages before. And if you get all the hidden packages, you get really nice benefits. You get all the weapons available at your hideout for free. There's a police bribe there. There's armor. And you also get $1,000 for every single package you pick up. And then if you get all 100 of them, you get $1 million. So what I did was I've just found some videos on YouTube and I've just been following them where it's pretty much just, hey, follow this guide. If you follow the steps we do within 15-20 minutes, you can get all the items per island. So I've been doing that whenever a new island unlocks. I just follow one of those guides. I get all the items. It takes me, I can do it within an hour, and then that's it. And even then, at night, there's been some times where I'm struggling a little bit to go to sleep. And you know, this is where I tap into the kid again. You know what is just really nice and relaxing and just fun? I just load up Grand Theft Auto 3. I'm in bed, fire up the Switch 2, load up Grand Theft Auto 3, and I just get into a car and I just drive around Liberty City. And I just look for stuff that I've never seen before. And the hidden packages have kind of taken me to that path. But there's also been hidden things from Grand Theft Auto 3 that people such as Vadim M, or I think his name's Matt J, I want to say, fantastic channels there, where they cover Grand Theft Auto 3 content. And so I've started to look for those things now myself, and it's so cool seeing them, and I still get impressed with the game. You all can probably hear my voice. I love this game. I feel like a kid again when I play it, which is ironic because it's rated M and it was, such a controversial release at the time. But that's what's made me happy. That's what I've been playing. Additionally, I'm still, doing my Ring Fit, and I also have Cloudpunk. That is the net new game I'm playing. That was a game, you know what, Cloudpunk is so good. I love the writing. I love the voice acting. The narrative is, it's fantastic. I love it. I love this game so much. But I'm not saying it in a bad way. But no, the issue I was having, sorry, it's not that bad, but let me just say, the issue I was having was that I was also playing this game a few nights before bed. If I just want to relax, I would fire up Cloudpunk, and I think it's just something with the atmosphere and the dark, setting there, and just the talking and everything. If I'm laying back in bed, I start falling asleep within 10 minutes. It's at the point, I'm literally driving the vehicle in there and falling asleep. And when I start nodding off, I'm like, okay, I got to put the Switch away and I'm going to bed. There was 1 or 2 nights where I was having a lot of trouble getting to bed. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to play Cloudpunk until I feel sleepy. And it took me about an hour and a half to feel it. But Cloudpunk also helped me get to sleep there. Cloudpunk, I don't mind doing that because Cloudpunk, I can still make progress in the game and I'll fall asleep. But with Grand Theft Auto 3, I just resign myself to exploring the city and just driving around, because if I start doing missions, my brain starts to wake up because I actually have to start thinking and, I'm planning and I'm strategizing and all that stuff. So those are the games I've been playing. And I've been having so much fun with those games, man. I've been enjoying it so much. So I'm kind of feeling like a kid again in that regard. But yeah, that's about it for this episode of Mario's Minute. Episode 100, we did it. We did it. Like, that's cool. Are we going to make it to another 100 episodes? I have no idea. I didn't think this show was going to go on for 100 episodes. You got to remember, you have to remember, at the beginning of Mario's Minute, I said if you exclude episode 0, I want to do 12 episodes. That's going to be 1 year, and after 12 episodes, I'm going to reassess. And I just kept it going. So that's how it is. That's how it is. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for listening. Thanks for just being you and just hanging out here and just, dropping a comment, enjoying the podcast, whatever it is. And if you're able to, like, if you truly enjoy the podcast, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Again, I don't know if I'm going to make it to another 100 episodes. I'm just going to keep doing this episode while I still want to do it. I'm still going to make these episodes. But we got to finish this out, right? Because I'm a little over the 1 hour mark, and I got to wrap this up here. So, typically I pick something off of my desk, and right here in my right hand, I have a screen protector. Not just a screen protector; it's a glass screen protector. I love these tempered glass screen protectors. I think they are amazing, and I need to apply it on my girlfriend's phone because she's one of those people. She's really bad at taking care of her electronics. I'm not going to say much more than that. But either way, let's use the word glass. What type of screen protectors do you like? Do you like glass screen protectors? Do you like those like flexi film type ones? When you drink out of something, do you prefer to drink out of a glass? Do you prefer to drink out of a mug? Do you like stained glass art? Are you or have you explored being a glass blower? Some along those lines. Let me know if you use the word glass in a comment on the video upload. I'll know that you made it to the end of this episode. Either way, that is about it for this episode of Mario's Minute. If you enjoyed it, a like would absolutely be appreciated. If you didn't like it, a dislike is fine as well too. But as I always say, this is Mr. Mario, signing off. Thank you all for listening and watching, everyone. And until next month.